All right, y'all. So I look real crazy today. Real crazy. I got on my trusty pumping bra, and I've been doing the same thing. I have my little dragacorn here. I'm just joking. She's in the in between stages of falling asleep. She'll be asleep in a little bit. But I got a request on a breast pumping video. So I'm assuming this is all the ins and outs of breast pumping. And excuse me because I'm cleaning up, I'm washing dishes, and I'm putting my daughter to sleep. So we just gonna put this camera like this. Um, breast pumping. When I first started breast pumping, the first thing I did was I talked to the. I actually started to breastfeed before I started to breast pump. So if you're pregnant and you haven't given birth yet, one of the things that you can and should do is buy a breast pump. So number one, I bought one breast pump, which I think was a mistake because um, you want to buy a double head breast pump. You want to be milking um, or pumping all in one sitting. So instead of doing 15 minutes on the left and then 15 minutes on the right, which is a total of 30 minutes, just go ahead and get a double head breast pump, which means you get a pump for each breast, and you pump 15 minutes on each side. I mean, you pump 15 minutes total, but you're pumping both sides at the same time. So that's something that I would have definitely went back and redid. Um, for me, when I started breastfeeding, I did not breast pump. Um, I really didn't start breast pumping until later, until I wanted to start building a storage. But I had so much anxiety regarding whether or not she was getting the amount that she needed. Um, so with that, I mean, in terms of pumping from her supply. So I felt like she needed to have milk from me the entire day. So if I pump some milk and I put it off to the side, I thought that that was taking away from what she needed to be able to, um, to get all of the nutrition that she needed. So let's say I pump like in a day for her newborn, maybe a few weeks old, maybe I'm pumping like 2 to 3 ounces every pump, 8 times a day. So I'm pumping 24 ounces a day. 3 times 8, between 16 and 24 ounces. I think they only need about 2 ounces, 60 milliliters when they're a few weeks old. But so let's say they need 24 ounces, and I'm pumping that pump that I'm pumping and put it in the freezer. Let's say it's maybe 4 ounces. So I'm feeling like that those 4 ounces she's not getting. Um, and I'm not going to produce enough to replace what I've taken and frozen. So that's something that I still deal with now. And I guess I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But the best way to breastfeed, or I'll say breast pump, and to know that your child is getting enough is to use a tracker. You definitely need some sort of a tracker. I use Pump Flow, and it gives me averages. It gives me the max amount of milk that I pumped in a day. It gives me the minimum. It shows me which breast is produced. It shows me how much each breast is producing, and I think it's great. I'm able to look at the app and say, "Oh, my left breast only produced 5 ounces. My right breast is always producing 7 ounces." So if that's something that you see, that's an indicator that maybe you have a blocked um, mammary gland. I think that's what it's called. A blocked duct. Maybe it's a duct. I don't know. Somebody can correct me in the comments. But if you have a blocked duct, then you're not going to produce as much. I feel like you should be producing the same amount. If if you're pumping for the same amount of time, then you should produce the same amount. In my mind, that's what it should be. That's never what it is when I pump. So a lot of times they say a nice hot shower is good and you can manually express in the shower. I do have a manual pump and I have not used it a lot, but when I did use it, I think it worked quite well. And it was very hard work. But what I did, the advice that I got from a friend is that you can do a manual pump in the shower. And that hot water on your chest will help to make the milk come out much easier. So you could try that if you like to use a manual pump. I used a manual pump when when she was a few weeks old, so that really helped me then because I wasn't producing so much. I haven't used it since then, so I honestly don't know that much about it, but I do feel like the manual pump can be useful in the shower when you're not producing as much as you should, to kind of jumpstart you. Or maybe you use it in the beginning of a pumping session if you want to kind of jumpstart and do that. I also have the Haka that I've used before if I'm leaking, to catch all of that leakage, and I've got some nice yields from that. It wasn't anything impressive, but it was impressive to see that I could capture an ounce almost of milk from just using the Haka. And then manually expressing too is great for when you have blocked ducts. And you'll notice that you have blocked ducts when you look at your breast and you see like those big fat veins. So you'll notice it then, and you'll be able to just go in. I'm sorry, I look real crazy, but my hair is in its little protective style. But so yeah. So what I do is I take, and I think the nurse or lactation consultant that was there when I had my daughter just told me, you take and you pinch around the areola, and you say this is the nipple here. You take and you pinch that circle, the innermost circle, and you pinch it. You don't pinch it. I mean, but you hold it tight enough until you get that stream of milk coming out, and then I just keep on doing that until because that, to me, that's engorgement when I have those big veins, and I'll do that a few times to kind of get out any of those blocked ducts. So when it comes to storage, I'll show you what I did, and I'll show you some of my storage as well. So this is probably about 2 weeks of me doing this consistently. So all of that is milk, and I go through and I put her name, the date, and how much I pump. So about each one of these bags is about 5 ounces, and the oldest is on the left up to the newest on the right. And so I just put them in this box here, and I do that so that they're nice and flat. So when I lay it down, but milk expands, right? So I put them down, and when I take them out, they're nice and flat, and I just put them on the left side. Now I'm about to probably, I don't think I'm gonna run out of space if I get this up here filled. But if I continue to do this, it's good to have a little calendar. Mine is obviously dirty, excuse it. But so what I counted was, ignore that. I don't know why I put 28. I don't know if I was estimating, but count how much you have. Count how many bottles you have now. And then up until, I'm assuming a lot of us mothers are going to be sending our babies to Oh, maybe not, because we all had our babies at different times. But, if your baby's about to go to daycare, or you're still pregnant, this is something you can think about. You want to estimate between where your baby is now, where you're at now, and then when you go back to school, and you want to count. For me, I'm producing about between 15 and 18 ounces a day. So that's almost 4 bottles at 5 ounces, right? 5, 10, 15, and then I'm 18 is almost 20. So that's 3 bottles and 3 ounces. I'm feeding her exclusively during the day via bottle. So whatever I pump, I'm giving her a bag, and then at night I'm breastfeeding her, because she wakes up for a feed at like 3 for maybe 10 minutes, and then at 5 for another 10 minutes. So I count those 2 feeds as one, because it's 20 minutes is usually enough for a feed. So it's a small feed, but it's a feed. And then outside of that, she still drinks her 5 ounces every 3 to 4 hours, and she does that 4 times a day. A lot of information, but the point of the matter is, you need to figure out how much you're making and how much she's taking to figure out how much she's eating on average. So I'll use my marker to demonstrate. So for me, and I like to do it on the low end, because every day I don't make 2 bottles. So I'll just say every day she's getting, every day I'm producing enough for 3 feeds. So I'm producing enough for three feeds. So I'm producing enough for 3 feeds. And that's between the 2 milks, excuse me, let me get it straight. I'm pumping 2 bottles every day, and she eats at night. And if she doesn't eat at night, then we're just going to say 3 feeds. Let me just bring it back. I don't want to confuse you. So here's the thing. Sometimes my daughter does not eat at night, and sometimes she does. So I breastfeed her at night. What I usually make if she does not eat at night is 3 bottles. I produce 3 bottles worth of milk. If she eats at night, I only produce 2. So I have to offset that when I'm calculating how much milk she needs, that I need to supply and freeze before she starts daycare. So if she eats at night, I'm only going to put 2 bottles in the freezer. I'm only going to produce 2. If she doesn't, I produce 3. So the way I look at this is that every day I'm producing 3 bottles between me feeding her from my breast and me pumping. So I'm producing enough for 3 bottles, right? And if she and the way I do it is, if she eats at night, I only give her 1 pack of milk, right? Because she got that other pack of milk when I fed her, when I nursed her. So now let's go. So my daughter eats 5 times a day. So she eats 5 times a day. And she also eats formula. So she eats 3 bottles of formula, and she eats 2 breast milks, whether that's me nursing or whether that is me actually giving her a bag from the freezer. So that's a total of 5. That's 5 feeds in a day, right? So now what I want to focus on is my production versus what I need to store. So if I'm producing enough milk for 3 feeds a day between the bottles and between me nursing, right? And I feed her, remember, she eats, I want her to have 2 breast milks a day, right? So I produce, so 3 milks are produced by me in a day, and 2 are breast milks that she eats, right? So I produce 3, and she eats 3 breast milks. 3 breast milks that's eaten. So in total, what I'm actually yielding each day is 1. I'm making a yield of 1. So each day, I increase my stash by 1. So that's what you guys need to figure out. You need to figure out how much are you producing, how much are they eating, and then how much are you actually yielding for your supply. So I have 1 milk every day that goes towards my supply, right? So now that I have that information, I can figure it out. I can count. So today is the 18th. Right now I have 22 bottles in the fridge, and I have to go back to work on the 10th or the 11th. I can't remember which one. So I'm just gonna count. So I'll get 1 every day. Right? But I'm gonna continue that. So when she goes to the babysitter, by that day I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I have 23 bottles to add to the already stash that I have. So this is my stash now, and I'll add 23 bottles added. So I have a total of 45 bottles, right? And then you have to figure out how many bottles are they going to need every day. How many bottles will they need every day, right? So my daughter she'll probably go to daycare around between 8 a.m. to 4, right? We usually work 9 to 5, so 8 to 4. So we have to think, okay? If your baby's not on the schedule, this may be harder to do, but in general, they'll eat every 3 to 4 hours. So she'll eat probably at 8 a.m. She usually wakes up at 7. So she has a feed at 8 a.m. She'll have a feed at 12 p.m. That's 4 hours later. And then she'll have a feed at around 4. And if she feeds 3 hours, then it'll be 11 and 3, right? So, but while she's there, she'll get 3 feeds every day. So that's a total of 3 feeds. And this is pretty general for all kids. 3 feeds, right? So if she's eating 3 feeds every day, then now you can figure out how long is my stash gonna last. So, right? So if she eats 3 feeds every day, so 3 feeds every day, and that's 5 feeds, or that she goes to daycare 5 times a week. You got to multiply that. So 3. So if this is 1 week here, so you can visualize how that looks. I already said I have 45 bottles stashed. So that's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and 3. So that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So that's 15 feeds. 3 times 5 is 15. So that's 15 feeds in a week, right? So every week she's going through 15 bottles. So 15 bottles here, that's 2 weeks. 15 bottles here, that's 3 weeks. So I've got enough for 3 weeks. All right. So 15 plus 15 is 30. 30 plus 15 is 45. Yeah. So I got enough to get me through almost a month. But keep in mind, I'm only producing one a day. So actually, for right now, my daughter's only going to be going to daycare twice a week. Because of the COVID, I only have to go into work in person twice a week. So I'll be okay. So that's how I kind of figured out exactly what I needed to stash, how I worked it out. This brings me back to the app. The great thing about the app is you can see if you're increasing in production. Like, I knew I was increasing in production after the first day because I made more than the last day. But you may want to pay more attention to the averages and to how much you're increasing in those things, because that'll let you know. It'll kind of keep you on track. Just like I decreased the other day, I know that from the app, I know that I need to drink more water so that I can stay on top of producing and continuing to produce more. So my hopes is that by the time that she goes to daycare, I'll be producing more. I'll be producing. My goal is to produce enough that she doesn't need any more formula, and I just think that the breast milk is more nutritious. It has more antibodies in it. Well, I don't know if formula has any antibodies in it. I'm just thankful that she's getting some, and if I don't, then that's, it is what it is. Also, my daughter is 4 months, so I'm going to be introducing solids. So I'm really happy about that, because I'll be able to introduce her to nutrients that can supplement for the milk that I'm not able to give her. So I'm going to start her with oatmeal instead of rice, because rice, I mean, if you just think about it, what grown adult eats rice every single day? Nothing but rice and milk. No, you wouldn't do that, because that's not a balanced diet. It's not very nutritious to overeat starch. A starch is something like bread, cakes, things with a lot of, those are starches. I believe. I don't eat those things because they just give you a lot of calories and not a lot of nutrition, and it makes you gain quite a bit of weight. The other thing with starch that I've done research on is that it can cause diabetes. It can increase your insulin levels. And so you guys really want to think about rice. I know it's something that our parents did, and they probably didn't have, with Google and the internet now, we have access to a lot of information. So I think it's important to pay attention to the information that you get. A lot of this information that I get is from Facebook groups with, I'm on a group now for fussy babies, and they bring out a lot of information about, aside to the fussiness, because I originally joined the group because she was a high needs baby to some extent, or at least I was bracing for that. But they do talk about just general mom things like feeding, rice, and I'm also on an acid reflux group, I believe. So they talk a lot about those questions that you might have, rolling over, just anything to do with raising a kid. It's a really good thing to be a part of a community online, and so that you can ask those questions, you can get other opinions, you can get support, resources, and things like that. So a lot of this information that I'm getting for her is from that group, and some of it is information I never even thought of. But I'm always reading the group comments and asking questions because it may be something that I encounter. Like she hasn't had eczema. Well, she has a little bit on her eyebrows, but when I first saw that comment, I went past it. But I wish I would have paid more attention now because it's something that um, is affecting her slightly. So yeah, definitely when she's gonna start eating oatmeal that has quite a bit of prebiotics in it, and your breast milk is full of probiotics. So the prebiotics supplement the probiotics. They basically, the prebiotics feed the probiotics in a way, and it's really good for them. Um, Lots of nutrients. It's very nutritious. Also, I've heard of ascorbic acid in fruits. So ascorbic acid does irritate reflux if your child is struggling with reflux. So be careful with that, especially with their first food. We did give her a little bit of orange, as like just let her taste the juice from the orange fruit itself, and she had horrible reflux the entire night. She just was waking up quite a bit. So you might want to introduce more bland foods at first. Vegetables. I'm going to do oatmeal and then vegetables and then fruit to kind of build up her palate and to also give her the nutrients that she needs. Ultimately, the goal is to create balance with the fruits and the vegetables and the oatmeal. But I'm going to start her off with oatmeal, then vegetables, then fruit. So that's all the information I have. I'm sorry this has been a long video, but I hope that you guys gained something from it. The other day I got a phone call while I was recording, and so that was the end of that video. But I think I covered most of what I needed to cover. But definitely keep those apps on your phone, the feeding app, the pumping apps, so that you can see what you're producing each day. You can see your progress. It'll make you feel good. It'll also keep you in check when you need to drink more. So definitely do that. And if all else fails for her, since she's 4 months, babies can start introducing those foods after 6 months. So maybe what I'll do is I'll give her the breast milk only, and then the food to supplement the formula that I had been giving her. So that's an option too, if you just never produce the amount that you think you should. So if your baby's 4 months, that's really good. If your baby's really young, then you might want to really get on top of things now. I wish I would have did that a lot sooner. And just, it would have given me peace of mind, I think, to just pump all of, I enjoy breastfeeding her at night, but most of the time I wish I would have pumped so that I could get ahead of this curve now, because she'll be starting daycare in a few weeks. So I just have to keep doing what I'm doing now, and she'll have about 45 bottles of milk in reserve, and she's only eating 6 a day or 6 a week. So then the rest of the week will continue that same routine, and I basically will be producing 7 bottles a week. So I'll only be producing 1 extra bottle every week if I were to only do breast milk. So I'll still be supplementing to some extent, or I will be doing the food. But I'll most likely do the food at home first to kind of see how she does with it. With the sweeping motion of the tongue from the front to the back to make sure she gets the food before I introduce that at daycare. Or maybe I'll just start it now and kind of see where it goes. So that's all of the information I have. Lots of math, but it's worth it to sit down, to plan it out. It gives you ease of mind. It gives you peace of mind to know that you're going to be okay and your baby is going to have enough to eat.